Barron Ridge Speakers Agency proudly presents Speaker Spotlight, highlighting one of our keynote speakers from across the nation. Now, here's your Spotlight host, Mindy East.
Hi, joining me today on my Speaker Spotlight is Anthony Powell. Anthony is a former anchor, news reporter, a current voiceover artist, and an actor. Anthony, welcome.
Thank you, Mindy. I was just thinking as we're sitting here connecting on Zoom, I'm always so thankful when technology works out. I do a lot of voiceover sessions where clients will direct me via Skype or Zoom, and I'm always like, please work, please work. So whenever it does work, I'm like, thank you.
Oh, it's wonderful. And you know what? Everyone is catching us on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
And we're so
I haven't
excited.
started drinking yet, have you?
Well,
we're friends. Honesty is the best policy.
But Anthony, I told Anthony, of course, Anthony's been involved with this project from the beginning, and you've been with my agency for a couple of years, and you're one of my favorite people to work with.
Thank you. And you're so awesome to work with. And
thank you.
I was so excited to be part of the Speaker Spotlight, because I think it's such a great way to have a personal one-on-one discussion and for people to get to know your speakers, in an authentic way.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted this to be fun and casual, like a conversation. And my goal, obviously, is to promote my speakers and hopefully get some people interested in us. And we know that big venues can't quite be opened up by now, but whenever someone needs us, we're ready. We're here and available. And Anthony, you're also an MC and a moderator. And
yeah.
You have done quite a bit of local, regional, and national work.
Sure.
Let me give a little bit of your background. You are a Malibu guy. You
did that with a Malibu accent, Malibu.
Well, I'm married to a guy from LA, so
that's right.
You guys are good friends. So.
Mark and I have had many talks about Malibu and Los Angeles.
And what an amazing backstory. That's what I find is so fascinating about my speakers. And everyone brings this incredible wealth of experience and outlook. And you've had some really over-the-top experiences. You went to high school with best friends, Charlie Sheen and Rob Lowe. Your dad.
Yeah, I knew those guys. I knew those guys really well. I mean, my exposure to the entertainment industry really began at a very young age. My dad was a screenwriter for such legendary shows as Hogan's Heroes. And I remember I was a very young kid, but I still can visualize it. The cast of Hogan's Heroes, they had a cast party at our house. I remember going to watch the Mary Tyler Moore Show being filmed because my dad wrote some episodes of that. My dad worked for Norman Lear, one of the most famous television producers ever. So, yeah, I mean, growing up, I always had friends because we had a vacation place in Michigan, and people were always so interested about what my dad was doing and asking him questions. And for my brother and I, it was like, what's the big deal? Because we had grown up around it, but we realized that, those shows that my dad wrote for, MASH, Andy Griffith, Mary Tyler Moore, Hogan's Heroes, Barney Miller, really had an impact on a lot of people and still do to this day.
Absolutely. That was so much a part of our upbringing, and it was just part of our culture.
You know what's really fascinating? I have people telling me, and I've even written an article, and I was going to share that with you because maybe we could talk about getting it published somewhere. I have people telling me that they watch Andy Griffith to relax. Because it reminds them of a simpler time when we didn't have Zoom like we do now and stuff like that. I mean, really, they really, and so I wrote this article saying why I'm so proud that my dad wrote for Andy Griffith, because it's given people not only pleasure, but a way of kind of calming down, because we live in such a chaotic world, especially with Corona, as if it wasn't chaotic enough before Corona, with all this technology we have, and now this Corona has just added this whole new unfortunate wrinkle to it all.
Well, we got some good news today as far as, there's some states that are opening back up and some of the
Yeah,
restrictions are being relaxed.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
what are you doing to look forward to thriving? I mean, what do you look forward to getting back to after COVID-19?
Oh, I'll tell you, it's amazing the things we take for granted. Like you, I live on the west side of Wichita, and I find myself driving by the Warren Theater, or I guess it's the Regal Warren now, whatever they call it. And I was one of those people. I work out of my house. There were many days where just to get out of the house, I would go see a movie during the day, just as a way of, getting out, getting your mind. And I drive by and stuff that we took for granted. I am so looking forward to those things, the stuff that we, going out to a restaurant, going to have coffee at a neighborhood place, whether it be Starbucks, Panera, or a mom and pop. Just those things that are, we don't realize how important they are to our day-to-day lives. And I find myself just saying so much, I want my old life back. And it's been, I don't want to sound overly dramatic, but it has been traumatic in a lot of ways, because it's you see your old life and you want to reach out and grab it, and it's elusive at this point because of this horrible virus. So the way that I've tried to stay sane during this is one word: routine. And I've seen a lot of mental health experts really stressing that. Try as much as possible to have a routine and structure. So I was, before Corona, I was always one of those people. The night before, I would write out what I had to do the next day, whether it be in my work life or my life outside of work. So when I got up in the morning, I could look at my little printout of my schedule and know what was going on. And I've found out that it's been so vital during this period, because I wake up sometimes feeling like a lot of people, I'm sure like most people, feeling some anxiety, because when you wake up, you realize you're in this whole new world. But at least when I can look at that schedule, it kind of brings me back to the way my routine is now and was before Corona. It kind of brings me a sense of calm. So as much as I can, I've tried to keep up the thing that I did before, whether it be exercise, whether it be my work routine. I'm one of these lucky people. Voiceover work actually has been pretty busy, because so many companies are trying to rebrand themselves, to come across as compassionate when it comes to Corona. So there's been a lot of the work, and I've had a lot of auditions where they, just like we are right now, having a conversation about what are you doing during this time. So luckily my work's been pretty busy, and I work out of my home. So I know that was a tough transition for a lot of people who weren't used to working at home, going from an office. But thankfully that one hasn't been, as rough on me, because I've worked at home now for several years.
Well, and so of course, everything in our event world, all of our events were canceled, all the conferences and workshops and
Yeah,
meetings and things. So it did give us time to reflect and kind of hit that pause button. What
sure.
do you plan on bringing? Well, you talked about what you did to maintain your sanity. What
Right.
did you come across anything that you can leave behind, either personally or professionally, that you've just decided, okay, that's not serving me any purpose?
I think like things that might have ordinarily upset me before Corona, I'm really trying. Corona, I think, despite what a horrific situation it's presented us all, like any situation, you've got to try to take some positives away from it. And what it's taught me is that, you know, life is so precarious. You never know when things are going to change. And, it's like that old book. Remember that old book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff? I've read that book and I've reread it. And I even reread it during this time, because we're really reminded that something like Corona is so much bigger than any of us. And we've really got to, just take pleasure in simply living. And so I'm trying. I'm the type of person, I admit, if something were to happen to me, I would grind on it, maybe more than I should have. I'm really just trying to breathe, let things go, and remember that, we're fortunate, that I feel fortunate that I haven't gotten the illness, that nobody I know has gotten it. So just taking pleasure in those things that, you may have taken for granted before.
Well, and as I mentioned earlier, you've been a news anchor and reporter for many years.
Yes.
So I'd love to get your opinion and have you weigh in. How difficult a job do you think it is for the current media to be covering this story?
Wow. I've thought about that a lot. This story, when I was a reporter, we had these stories that we would call moving part stories because there were so many complexities to it. They were ever changing. What would be a good example? Maybe like when they were going to put in the arena for downtown Wichita, the plans were always changing, the locations were changing. But a story like that pales in comparison to Corona because, think about it. There's the medical angle covering that, and then there's the economic angle. And as we've all seen, there's this really big debate. How long do we keep things locked up? So there's so many. Then there's vaccines coming out. So just trying to cover it all, it would just be a very, very difficult job. And it's a very emotional story. I feel so sorry for small business owners. They are, it is so sad what's going on with them because of shutdowns. And then of course, people that have had the virus. So there's just so many complexities, layers, moving parts to this story. Then of course it's gotten a little bit political too. And so it's a very, very, very complex story. And there's so many unknowns. We don't know if this thing's going to come back in the fall. So it's really definitely one of the top 5 biggest stories in American history. No question about it.
Wow.
I talk to people about, it gets compared to 9/11. 9/11 was absolutely shocking the way it happened, but our life didn't stop. I remember I was working in Kansas City when 9/11 happened, and we could still go out to restaurants. And then, of course, we had 2008, the mortgage, and that was a big story too. But again, life didn't shut down. This one I think it's going to change life forever. I really do. I think even when things have quote unquote, we have a vaccine, I still think people are going to be on their guard if they're in a movie, they hear somebody coughing. This is just, this story is just incredibly, it's big, it's scary, it's overwhelming. So many words. I'm glad I'm not covering it. I really am.
Well, you bring up some really good points. And besides being a business and leadership speaker, you're also an entrepreneur and a small business owner yourself. So
yeah.
I know you're one of those essential businesses. Fortunately, you're still able to, provide and.
We're a cleaning business. It's called the Cleaning Authority. We were deemed an essential business, but we still took a big hit. A lot of people did cancel their service. They were scared, but it's come back. It's come back, and we were fortunate. We got one of those Paycheck Protection Program loans too. But yeah, I really can identify with, especially with those small businesses that still have to remain closed. It's devastating. Devastating.
As I mentioned, you're a speaker, an MC, a moderator, You're also an actor. You recently played Coach Bill Belichick on the Murder Made Me Famous story about Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah, Reels TV, the Reels TV network. Yeah, if you could believe it, that was actually, I think about a year ago. But yeah, that was a fun role to play. I was after I got out of college, I got my degree in broadcasting because I always wanted to be a sports or a news anchor growing up. But then when I saw my friends like Charlie Sheen and Rob Lowe making it big, I'm going to try this acting thing. So I was a wannabe actor, as most are out in Los Angeles, actor slash bartender, and had some small roles, in the soap opera General Hospital and that old Andy Griffith, not the Andy Griffith show, Matlock. And so then when I got out of news, I kind of did a full circle life moment. I said, I'm going to give this acting thing another try. And I was able to get a really good agent down in Oklahoma City. And so there's a lot going on down there. And they get some work down in Dallas too, which is where we shot the Reels TV episode about Bill Belichick. So that was fun. Yeah. So I'm fortunate. I get to do a lot of things: voiceover work, hosting, speaking, moderating. I've gotten to taste a lot of different things.
Well, and as I mentioned, it's that backstory that brings the wealth of entertainment and storytelling to the stage, and you do that so well. And
I appreciate it.
I want to thank you again for working on this project and doing the voiceover for Speaker Spotlight.
Thank you. My pleasure. It's a great idea. I told you I really applauded you for coming up with the idea. So you're an example of an entrepreneur thinking outside of the box, which is so critical for entrepreneurs to do, especially when it comes to marketing. You and I have talked about getting your name out there, building the brand, and this is such a great way to do it. And it's been, I've seen some of the interviews you've done, like I saw the one with Sierra and Steve Sachs too. That was great to see Steve Sachs too, because as I told you, I remember him as a Dodger when I was growing up out there.
I know, right? And so, my agency has been in existence for 5 years now, and Steve was one of my first speakers. But my background, I've been in this industry for 11 years, and I love what I do. I think it's my passion. It's just my calling. I'm so grateful to have it. And as we know, nothing's really happening right now, but we know that when people do start needing us, we will be there. So
absolutely.
Tell me, as I mentioned, you're a great storyteller. You love to speak to all audiences. Who would be your perfect audience to get in front of?
Wow. Do I have to pick one?
No, just pick your
I would love to talk to fellow small business owners, because I think there's this notion that, I'm going to own my own business and everything's going to be, happily ever after. And the one thing that small business owners have in common is how tough it is to be a small business owner. So I always love comparing notes. I know you and I have talked about the challenges, about building brands. So I'm passionate about that. I would love to talk to news people about how the business has changed when I was in it, because now you have the social media element involved in it. So news has changed so much. Because back when I started, it was only TV that you worried about. Now you have the web, you have social media. And I would love to talk to people in the entertainment business too, when it comes to acting, because I've had, with my dad and the people I grew up with and my experiences. So I know I maybe was supposed to give you one answer, but I'm passionate about talking to a variety of people because, as we talked about, I've been fortunate to experience a variety of different experiences.
Yes. Well, you're one of my top speakers and you're popular and you're always going places. And I have to catch up with you because you're a busy guy. So
well, so are you.
Well, Yeah, it's a good problem to have, right?
Right,
Well,
right.
in closing, Anthony, tell me, what is your lesson learned, or what's your silver lining in all of this COVID-19?
I would say it really is about the small things. It's been great. Like, you and I live in the same neighborhood, and I'm sure you've noticed this too. I've noticed families spending more time together. I've noticed people, they seem, when they're taking walks now, I notice they're smiling more, because before they may have taken a walk for granted.
Hmm.
So, but now the chance to get out there, get out of the house, get some fresh air, it really feels like a welcoming experience. And, watching one of our mutual friends, Sierra Scott, doing her nightly show, I haven't been able to catch them all, but I think she has done such a great job of showing us that even in these difficult times, good things can happen. And that's been one thing that I will take with me. I think when I go through tough times in the future, this too shall pass. Is I know it's a cliche, but I think it's a really, really important one. And just remembering that there are positive things out there. Like, I remember Sierra introduced her show a couple of nights ago by saying, I hope you got a chance to enjoy the beautiful sunshine today. And that's something that prior to this we may have taken for granted. So after this is all cleared, I will no longer take the quote unquote small things for granted. I really
Oh,
won't.
perfect. And what a wonderful attitude of gratitude. And that was one thing too, you're very involved with Sierra Scott on Positively Kansas. That's
Yeah.
also one of your credentials. So
Right. That's been a great show to work with.
yeah.
Yeah, just all positive news. So
And
yeah, it's all about staying positive, especially during times like this, because it's easy to be overwhelmed. But I think, like I said, when hopefully we get back to life as more normal. I don't know if it will be as
it'll be a new normal.
yeah, the new normal. I think taking these things that we've learned, like not taking things for granted, enjoying the small things, it's going to be so, and I think will enhance people's lives.
I agree. I agree. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for joining me
Thank
today.
you, Mindy. I know we were supposed to do this a few times this week. Thanks for your flexibility.
Absolutely. And if anyone's interested in booking Anthony for either a speech or a voiceover, or even a MC or a moderator,
I'd love to do it.
contact Barron Ridge Speakers Agency and I'll set things up for you.
I've
Anthony.
got some funny stories about growing up in Malibu.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, we're good friends on and off, professionally and personally. So I always enjoy working with you. So thank you for your
time. All right, Mindy, have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for watching. Please join us next time. For more information on booking a keynote speaker or event MC, contact Mindy East at Barron Ridge Speakers Agency.